Hello everyone. For those of you who might not know me, my name is Fred Thomas. I'm the Adair County Cattlemen's Association President. And on behalf of the Cattlemen's Association and tonight's sponsors and Lindsey Wilson College and the University of Kentucky and D&S Caterers, I'd like to welcome you to tonight's meeting. Not knowing how long COVID restrictions would last, and because it's been quite a while since we last met, we were trying to figure out how we'd get together, and we landed on an idea that I believe it was Nick first brought up, and the board agreed would maybe make a good idea for us to get together. So we'd like to introduce you to our first drive-in movie theater ever. So we know that it's a little unusual meeting type like this, but knowing how much we enjoy meeting, we thought that we should at least try. It's tough to beat the food and the fellowship and the learning and the door prizes we've grown accustomed to at our regular meetings, but we think we'll get close enough to make it an enjoyable meeting. As always, we'd like to start with a prayer. If you'll join in, please. Dear Father in heaven, we pause at this time to give praise and thanks and to ask for your blessing. Praise for the loving kindness and wisdom you share with anyone who wishes to know you. Thanks for allowing each of us to be the stewards of your creations. And thanks for the food you have so graciously and abundantly provided. We ask that you bless this food so that it might nourish our bodies even as your word nourishes our souls. All in the name of Jesus, amen. Now I'd like to run down our agenda so that you know what's coming. We have a few things, housekeeping to talk about. We're going to cover some business review. We have some presentations by Berkman. We have a presentation by Berkman of Columbia. The Junior Cattlemen's Association, we have Bailey Grider, chair, and we have Beth Cowan, co-chair. We have 3 UK speakers, Dr. Jimmy Hennings, Dr. Jeff Lemkuhler, and Dr. Michelle Arnold. They'll each take a few minutes to present to us what we think is important at this time of the year. We also have a short presentation on our agricultural tags, the value of them and what we might do with those. After that, we'll have Day and Day make a presentation from Purina, and then we'll have a youth cost sharing presentation, some Cattlemen's Association reminders at the end with a few door prizes, and after that, we'll be on our way home. So our first order of business is housekeeping. Lindsey Wilson was really kind, generous to allow us to use their facility tonight. We're asking each of you to treat the premises and the facilities with all the respect that they deserve. Also, regarding COVID restrictions, practice social distancing, stay in your cars if possible, and take care of your own trash so that no one else will have to be picking up behind you, and we won't have to worry about spreading COVID. When we leave tonight, we want to be able to say that we did a good job being socially responsible, both from a COVID standpoint and from the facility, leaving it looking like we were never here. So we're asking your cooperation with those. With those housekeeping rules out of the way, a brief business review is next. First, we want to share our 2021 priorities with the membership. But before that, even a little bit as to how we got to those priorities. Back in the fall of 2020, there was a leadership meeting, UK and some business leaders in the cattle industry across Kentucky. We met, Stephen Breeding and I went with Nick while we were on a Zoom meeting. And we talked about a lot of issues, a lot of things that we're faced with, a lot of challenges we're dealing with, and made a list of ideas and suggestions. And from there, we brought them back to our individual counties. And when we got back here in Adair County, we established 3 committees, and we took a survey and asked some of you to respond as to what you thought the issues were and what you'd like to see us focusing on. And we agreed on 3 priorities for this year. From those priorities, or those priorities are number one, how do we best market our cattle? How do we make more sales and profit from the cattle we have? What's the best way to market them? And so we had one committee that was focused on that. Another committee focused on ways to engage our youth in the production of cattle. How do we bring them up to speed a little more? They're going to be our replacements someday, and we want to make sure they're as ready as they can be and they're actually able to enjoy it. And that was a big priority for the whole state, by the way. And finally, we wanted to figure out how to create more value for our membership, both the individual and couple memberships and the sponsors, the corporate memberships. So those three committees went about their ways and came back with some ideas. And some of those ideas, I'm just going to run over them briefly. We're still working on some of those, still developing those, and we're always open for others. But first, we took a look at marketing the cattle, and there was a notion put before us that we should have a bred heifer sale sometime in May of 2022, I believe it was, and that would mean that we had to take advantage this year, or take the opportunity this year to create these bred heifers. And we've sent out communications several times since then, and response has been not as many numbers as we would really need to have to make a good sale. And so at this point, unless we hear from a few more people and get the numbers that we think it would take to make a good sale, we're probably going to shelf this. We'll give it another maybe couple weeks, 4 weeks at the most. Get back to Nick if you can, and if we don't hear anything else, we'll probably shelf this for a later time. And by the way, with the bred heifers, we even thought, well, maybe we could add bulls or young cows. So we're open to that, taking whatever form or shape that we think it needs to. We also wanted to emphasize and re-energize and expand the Adair County Cattlemen's Association feeder calf program. We think there's money to be had there. We, from the ones who have participated in it up to this point, everybody has reported premium prices on their cattle being sold at the markets. And it's for a couple really simple reasons. The buyers know that they're getting a product that's less risky. They're getting products that have been handled correctly in terms of health. They don't have to take as many risks in terms of losses and in terms of other things they might do to get those calves healthy. And so they look forward to our calves when we go to market. We'd like to make that a bigger program for us because we think everybody involved in it would make more money for their calves. So we're open to, or we'd like you to contact Nick to ask how to go about getting involved in this, what it takes to get involved, what it means to you as a producer, and we'd be glad to help in any way we can to get you on board with the program because we know you want to make more money. So take a good hard look at that, please. After the marketing committee presented their ideas, we talked about how do we more involve our youth in this business, and even beyond the scholarships that we provide for our youth. We do things now like cost share program. It's similar to the CAPE program, but except it's for the youth. We have a Junior Cattlemen's Association, and they have their own meetings. And we've also included them now in the regular meetings of the board so that the chair can attend the board meetings and participate in those board meetings, both from a junior cattleman's standpoint and to hear what the regular board is talking about. We identified members to be in charge. They've selected their own leaders, and they've already attended one of our meetings. We think this will go a long way to helping the youth and, in fact, helping us too. The other priority that we had was our corporate membership. Putting it to you this way, and you know this, but I'm going to say it, the more members we have and the more active each member is, the stronger we are as an association. The stronger we are as an association, the more we can get done for ourselves and the industry in general. So we are always looking for membership, and we're looking for active membership. And we wanted to figure out how do we create more value to our members now and in the future, both the associate members and the corporate members. And one thing that we did this year, we came up with, this isn't much, but we thought that it might help. We haven't been able to meet and get together very often, and so we thought, well, there's one way we can create a win-win for some folks, and that is let's put together a business card with our corporate sponsors, corporate members sponsoring promotions on this card, and there's 10 of them on here. They're offering some kind of discount for our members, so that if you take this card into their business, you get a discount that's worth, a fair amount of money to you, and it keeps you going into their businesses, and they get a little more out of it, and we get a little bit more out of it. So I think it's a win-win for everybody, and we'd like to continue doing this as long as it works for everybody involved. Another item of business, if you missed our Zoom meeting in January, we did recognize a couple of people. First was Joe Rogers. We presented him the Cattlemen's Association Appreciation Award for all he's done and continues to do for the association. So next time you see Joe, be sure to congratulate him and thank him. It's because of people like Joe and others like him that we are as successful as we are. We also presented the Cattleman of the Year Award to Danny and Trent Miller for their outstanding success with their business, JMS Polled Herefords. Well deserved, Danny and Trent, and please be sure to congratulate them also. At this point, I want to bring on our first presentation, but before I do that, I want to point something out here that we think is really cool. One is that Berkmans of Columbia, who usually do one meeting themselves, and Day and Day, who also do one meeting themselves, they've agreed to co-sponsor tonight to bring us this meeting. It's really unheard of in the industry because you have two competing businesses that are working together on our behalf to bring this presentation to us. So we really think that's really great of these guys, and we much appreciate it. So with that, the first presentation tonight is Berkmans of Columbia.
My name is Brent Williams, and this is Dr. John Johns, and we're both with Berkman Nutrition. Today, we would like to discuss the use of rumensin in our cow herd. Dr. Johns?
Thanks, Brent. I appreciate that. Rumensin is the technical name, I guess, is an ionophore, but it does something special in the rumen of all cattle. It enables the animal to get more nutrition, to digest more of the nutrients out of any given amount of feed that they are consuming. So it's cleared for beef cows, and so it can be fed to them. Some of the things that we want to think about why we should use rumensin is that if you look at some of the research data, it shows us that it will greatly enhance productivity. In a 4-trial summary that has been published of well-managed herds of cattle, they were fed either no rumensin, 50 milligrams of rumensin per head per day, or 200 milligrams of rumensin per head per day. Now, the group that got no rumensin still had a 90% number of cows that were pregnant at the end of the breeding season. So, like I say, it was a very well-managed herd. However, when rumensin was provided at the level of 200 milligrams per head per day, the percent pregnancy rate in that group jumped up to 96%. 6 more calves, Brent, per 100 cows. That's significant, even in a well-managed herd. The extra nutrition simply helps. In a Kansas State University study, they were using rumensin with lactating cows and then looking at calf weaning weight. And over the course of the period, again, they were feeding 200 milligrams of rumensin per head per day to these cows. Weaning weight in the group of cattle that received the rumensin was 19 pounds heavier calves than in calves with the cows that received no rumensin. Now, rumensin is not very expensive. It can be fed in the mineral, and if you take that increase in number of calves and that increase in weaning weight for the calves, and you do a little math with it, on a 100 cow basis, that represents about a $90 per cow increase in income for the 200 milligrams of rumensin. Now, if we figure out what the cost of that is, it's roughly $7 to $8 per cow per year. So a tremendous return on your money for just simply making sure that you're using a mineral product that contains rumensin.
Is there products that we have that have rumensin so that somebody could stay on rumensin year round, or is it something that they have to start and stop?
No, Berkman Nutrition has products that can be used on a year-round basis. Most people would not use rumensin in the wintertime because they would want to be feeding with spring calvers at any rate. They would want to be feeding a high magnesium product. Berkman Nutrition has a product called RumaMag, which will provide both high magnesium for prevention of Grace tetany and rumensin for the increased energy availability from the feed. Once Grace tetany season is over, there are several products that are available with rumensin. RumaGuard, Pasture Guard with rumensin. There are some other products if we're using co-products on pasture. We have a co-product balancer with rumensin. So it is quite possible and realistic for producers to be able to stay on rumensin 365 days a year with their cow herd.
Okay. Well, Dr. Johns, we appreciate your insights and your thoughts on using rumensin in cows based on the research that we've done and real farms that we've experienced this with. These numbers are very doable, and the return seems to be pretty much right on where the research has shown. So we thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
My name is Brent Williams, and this is Dr. John Johns, and we're with Berkman Nutrition. Today, we would like to discuss how we can reduce the effects of stress in our cattle. Dr. Johns?
Thanks, Brent. I appreciate the introduction. No matter what we're doing, if we're buying calves out of the stockyards to put on feed for the rest of the winter, or we're looking to buy calves to get them started that they're going to go out on grass in the spring, or if we're just weaning those fall-born calves off of their mothers, there is some degree of stress on cattle involved in all of that. We need to realize what stress actually does to cattle. The two big things that it does is it reduces their appetite and it reduces their dry matter intake. Now, these cattle still have the same nutrient requirements for health and for growth, but they're not going to eat as much. Therefore, we need what I'm going to call a nutrient-dense ration that we put in front of these calves for a few days to a few weeks, perhaps, depending on how stressed they really are. Remember, they don't eat as much, so they have to get all of the nutrition that they need in less amount of feed. That's what I call a stress ration. Now, there are several factors to consider when we're discussing what a stress ration really should be. The energy level is quite important. Research has shown that high energy rations actually make calves more sick. We'll have a higher percentage of cases that we'll have to treat if we're feeding a very high level energy ration. On a TDN, or total digestible nutrient basis, the ration, the research has shown, should be 65% or less TDN. Fat levels cannot be tolerated well by calves under high stress situations. So the level of fat in the ration should be less than 4%. Some other factors that are important are the starch content of the ration is being fed. This is related to the energy levels, of course, but highly digestible fiber sources that are low in starch will make the cattle perform and keep them healthy, but will reduce the level of sickness that we would expect to to see in these cattle as opposed to feed high levels of starch in the ration. A really important factor is the amount of protein and the form of the protein that's in the ration. NRC research, National Research Council work with beef cattle, has shown that we need about a 14 to 14.5% crude protein ration on a dry matter basis to get these cattle started well. Now, the form of the protein is very important. Calves under stress don't do well with high non-protein nitrogen for salt sources of the protein. However, they do need some. The research has shown that about 45% of the protein should be in a form that is rumen undegradable protein. By that I mean it will not break down in the rumen, but it will pass into the small intestine and be broken down into its constituent amino acids and absorbed. So we get natural protein into these calves. About 55% of the protein that's going into the animal does need to be in a form that will break down and supply nitrogen in the rumen. That nitrogen is very important for the microbials in the rumen to be able to form energy and to form a microbial protein that will be digested and utilized by the calf. Minerals are tremendously important. One of the macro minerals that we really want to pay attention to is potassium. Research has shown that potassium levels of about equal to or greater than 1.2% in the stress ration for 2 weeks will tremendously reduce the amount of sickness in the calves. One of the things that stressed calves come into the situation with is they may be dehydrated. They may not know how to drink out of a waterer, and so they don't get the right amount of water intake that they should have. The high potassium level helps rehydrate these animals and gets them back to going faster. Berkman stress rations that are available contain also live microbials and yeast to improve appetite stimulation and to improve dry matter intake, and 1,000 grams of chlorotetracycline per ton to help in prevention of bacterial enteritis and bacterial pneumonia.
Thank you, Dr. Johns, for that information. Dr. Johns helped us develop a product called Stress Guard. Stress Guard is available in 50-pound bags, and it is a traditional textured sweet feed, highly palatable with a lot of molasses to help drive the intake up, knowing that those calves are stressed and don't have the appetite that they normally would. So this is available to you at all of our Berkman locations. Thank you, Dr. Johns, for your time today.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
I'd like to thank Berkman's of Columbia for sharing that information with us. It's much appreciated. And now I'd like to introduce Bailey Grider and Beth Cowan, chairperson and co-chairperson for the Junior Cattlemen's Association.
Hi, my name is Bailey Grider. I'm the chair of the Junior Cattlemen's Association. My parents are Jason and Deanna Grider. I live and work on our family farm in the Milltown community of Adair County. We have 6 chicken houses, corn and soybeans, and 300 beef cows.
Hey y'all, I'm Beth Cowan. I'm a sophomore here at Adair County High School, and I'm your co-chair of the Junior Cattlemen's Association. I live and work on my family farm in Burton Ridge community of Columbia, where we have some beef heifers and lots of other farm animals, and I really enjoy it. I'm also the junior sentinel of the junior officer team at the school, and I'm really excited to be given this opportunity for the first time ever, and I hope we have lots of fun this year.
We are planning on holding a learning opportunity for Junior Cattlemen's members. In June, we are planning on holding a BQA certification. There will be both hands-on and classroom learning. It's going to be free. We will be at the extension office for the classroom part, and we'll be at the Adair County FFA barn for the hands-on part. Keep an eye out for upcoming information and upcoming newsletters.
We encourage any youth interested in the cattle production industry to join the Junior Cattlemen's Association for only $10. We are planning some very fun upcoming events and activities, and we hope to see you all there.
Okay, I'd like to thank Bailey and Beth for bringing that information to us and working so hard in the Junior Cattlemen's Association. And at this time, we have 3 UK speakers that will present some information to us. The board talked about some topics with Nick that might be really important to us at this time of the year. And we've had these 3 folks that agreed to come and do a short presentation for us. Dr. Jimmy Hennings will present a few minutes on forages. Dr. Michelle Arnold will present information on grass chutney, and Dr. Jeff Lemkuhler will talk to us about cattle nutrition.
Thank you for letting me join you for this brief set of forage tips for this spring. I'm Jimmy Henning with the University of Kentucky. And the 2 things I want to spend the next few minutes talking about are going to be nitrogen management as well as weed management. The first point I want to make about nitrogen management for forage crops is that we absolutely must work from a current soil test, and here's why. You're not going to get the response to nitrogen from your cool season grasses if your pH is out of the optimum range or if our P and K status is at least medium or better. And that's very important to realize, that it's not a waste to take care of these other nutrients because it will actually make your nitrogen applications more effective. Remember that spring added nitrogen gives the biggest yield boost we're ever going to get with cool season grasses. Then it'll give bigger boost than a summer application or a fall application. However, you need to be prepared to utilize it. And this is why, if you turn in a soil test and say it's for cool season grass pasture, UK will say, we don't recommend nitrogen on spring pasture. Well, there's a lot to that story. The main thing you need to know is that it's going to produce a lot of growth. And if you need that growth, and if you can pasture that off effectively, then that's money well spent. If that pasturage is not utilized well, then perhaps we didn't need that nitrogen as much as we thought we did. So just make sure, if it's on pasture crops, that you're ready to utilize that extra growth. Another point I want to make about forage crops, especially nitrogen management in the spring, is that a urease inhibitor is not recommended. One of the main reasons why is that we don't really want slow release in the cool conditions in the spring. We really want that nitrogen to go to work right away for us. And we know that unlike in the fall and on dry and hot conditions, urea losses are low. So we don't need that urease inhibitor. Take that money and put it on more nitrogen or on lime, phosphorus, or potassium. The next point I want to make about nitrogen management for forages has to do with clover. Now, I want to make the point that if we have a stand that we have just overseeded with clover, we need to withhold nitrogen from that stand. But on other mixed stands, we need to make a judgment about, do I have enough clover to withhold nitrogen? In other words, is that stand going to yield as much without nitrogen as we need? And here's how you have to assess that. We need 25%, and that's by weight. And that looks like 75% visually. The picture to the right is, in fact, 75% by weight clover. But you can see that visually it is a lot more than 25%. So we know that 25% by weight looks like a whole lot more clover. The other thing we need to know is that the clover that's present needs to be a high-yielding legume in order for us to withhold nitrogen and get high yields. And the reason for that is the yield of a grass legume field depends primarily on how much yield we get from the legume. there is not a lot of direct sharing of nitrogen between that legume crop in a given growing season and the grass. And finally, spring, especially late March and early April, is the best time to control three of our most common winter weeds: buttercup, henbit, and dead nettle. Dead nettle and henbit are actually closely related, and they look somewhat similar, but you can tell them apart if you look at them closely. Buttercup is one of several species and has a very waxy looking leaf. And of course, we know buttercup because of its normal showy yellow flower. March is the time to control these, but we need 3 days of warm temperatures with highs in the 50s or so in order to get good effective herbicide action. Remember that 2,4-D alone might not be effective for these weeds. To know which herbicide to use, I'd send you to one of our favorite publications, and that's AGR 207, The Broadleaf Weeds of Kentucky Pastures. This is an excellent publication that's going to help you maybe identify some weeds with the pictures on the front, but also identify the best time and the best chemical method to control these problem weeds in Kentucky pastures and hayfields. So with that, I want to thank you again for letting me offer up this quick edition of Forage Tips for Spring. I'm Jimmy Henning with the University of Kentucky.
Hello, I'm Dr. Michelle Arnold, ruminant extension veterinarian for the University of Kentucky. My timely tip is to prevent hypomagnesemic tetany or grass tetany with high mag mineral. This condition is caused by not enough magnesium in the bloodstream. A classic case of grass tetany is an older cow, usually greater than 6 years of age, overweight. She's within the last 2 weeks of pregnancy, but more often is in the first 3 to 7 weeks of lactation, because that is when her magnesium loss is at the greatest point in milk, in her milk production. She's grazing lush spring grass pasture, and the grass is high in potassium and low in magnesium. Usually that happens because the soil is high in potassium and there's excellent grass growth. And grass is a luxury consumer of potassium, which we'll talk about in a minute. There are other situations besides just grazing lush grass. If grazing or consuming baled cereal grains like rye or wheat, those are usually high in potassium, low in magnesium. There is a possible link to feeding or fertilizing with poultry litter that makes grass tetany more common, or simply insufficient forage available, so there's not enough magnesium intake either. So grass tetany is usually precipitated. The actual tetany is the disease event is precipitated by a stressful event, like a cold front, something that pushes them off feed for about a day. They're on the edge anyway, on that borderline low magnesium, and something just pushes them the rest of the way over. Unfortunately, success is not great. Only about 40% of the animals treated actually recover. They get, some get some aspiration pneumonia. A lot of them will relapse and then die. So not a very successful treatment. Prevention is definitely the way to go. So my tip for March is offer a high magnesium mineral to the cows, especially older cows nursing a young calf, because they're the highest risk. Start 1 month prior to calving season. We have to offer magnesium in the diet. There are so many factors that go into this disease that are hard to change. One of them is the high potassium in the forage. Spring grass has a very fast passage rate through the system. So whatever magnesium is there, it's hard to absorb it quickly. And then thirdly, there's that magnesium loss in the milk. So our situation is we want to flood their system with magnesium so it can override the effect of the potassium. There really are no bodily reserves to mobilize. Most of the magnesium is in the teeth or the bones, but there's no hormonal control to release that. So there's no way to mobilize what they have in their bodies to the bloodstream. They are dependent on what they get through the diet. You should stop feeding high mag mineral when grass is more mature, there's less water in it, and daytime temps are above 60 degrees. The cold soil is one of these problems that inhibits magnesium movement to the forage. So as the temperatures warm, magnesium can get back up in the forage again. And that's my timely tip for March. Thanks.
Hello, Adair County Cattlemen's Association. I hope you're doing well and this finds you all healthy and safe. Well, it's good to be with you all. Wish it could be in person, but unfortunately with COVID, we're doing this virtually. Just a quick reminder of some things as we move into the spring. We're here in the 1st of March. Any of you that are going to be having spring calving cows that are going to be getting ready to calve, if they haven't already, be sure to be thinking about moving them over to a high mag mineral. High mag mineral is a mineral with a target intake, for instance, of around 4 ounces per head per day with a magnesium level of 10% or higher. The biggest thing with magnesium mineral is to make sure that they're eating it. So be sure to monitor intake. In a 50-pound bag, there should be 200 feeding days in a 50-pound bag. So if you have 50 cows that are consuming that mineral, then that would last you about 4 days. If you've got some cows that have a little bit older calves, 200 pounds and up because they calved out in maybe early January, February, be sure to think about adding an ounce or two for those calves. They may start coming up and consuming that mineral as well. So just be sure to monitor intakes. Another thing I want to just mention, a lot of us are wanting to move away from feeding cows hay and supplemental feeds as the grass begins to green up. Be careful not to turn cows out too soon and stop feeding hay. They'll work a lot, expend a lot of energy just trying to fill the rumen with that short grass. The hay and that we might be feeding them is 90% dry matter, 10% water. This really lush grass that's going to start growing is going to be 90% water, 10% dry feed equivalent. So that means if a cow has to eat 30 pounds of dry matter a day, she's got to consume almost 300 pounds of fresh grass a day. Try to do that with your fingers going out there on grass that is really short, and you'll understand how much energy that cow's going to have to expend. As we think about really steep terrain, if you have a farm that the hills are 20% slope or greater, those cows can really increase their energy expenditures 20, 30, even up to 40% while they're trying to fill that rumen on that short grass. So again, I'd encourage you to not get your cows in a position where they're walking fat off of their back, just trying to fill their rumens on this lush grass as it comes on. Let it get 3-4 inches tall and then turn cows out on that grass. Or if you've got cows out there, continue to provide a little bit of dry hay to those cows during this spring flush. It will also slow the passage rate down a little bit and take advantage of that higher protein and soluble protein that's in that spring flush and offset the lower crude protein that you may have in some of your just straight grass type of hay. Another thing I just want you to be thinking about as we move into the spring, for these cows that are going to be spring calvers, it's important that we make sure that we try to monitor body condition score on these cows. And if you want to optimize reproductive success, get as many cows bred back in a short period of time, you need to maintain body condition score from calving to the time that you turn the bull in during breeding season. This gets to be a bit of a challenge for some of our February and early March calvers. Then we won't put bulls in until May 15th. During this window here, there's going to be environmental stress, a lot of rain, 40-degree temperatures that can impact their maintenance energy requirements because of a little bit of cold stress. And additionally, as we already talked about, as that grass begins to green up, they'll start walking more and you'll lose some body condition score as they try to fill their rumens. So with that, I hope you all have a great calving season. If you're weaning fall calves, be sure to look at plugging those calves into a program that's going to reward you for your management. I know you all have the special feeder calf sale down there that provides some opportunities to precondition calves and do some BVD PI testing. Folks are still interested in those types of calves, and I think that will continue to grow in interest, so I'd encourage you to think about taking opportunities when the market gives it to you. Lastly, feed prices are high. And so as you work through some of these challenging times with feed prices, be sure to consult with Nick. You've got one of the best county agents in the state down there. But watch these feed prices, watch what the markets are doing on commodities. All of our commodities, corn, soybeans, are going to drive the price of our distillers, corn gluten feed, soy hulls. So if we've got high corn and high bean markets, you can expect those to remain high. This is the time then to be thinking about alternative feeds. Is corn silage a viable option for me this year? Because maybe my costs of production are lower. Maybe I can get by with a 18 to 20 ton yield on corn silage and not shoot for that 23 to 27 ton corn silage yield and still have cheaper feed costs in the long run than maybe a hay and a commodity blend. So be thinking about some of these alternatives. Get with your county agent, push the pencil on some of these numbers. Perhaps a forage sorghum might be an option for you this year that you haven't thought about. Oftentimes some of our sorghum varieties are a little bit cheaper on the establishment cost and may not yield as much energy per acre, but they can certainly fit into a beef operation quite well. If you have the local equipment, being that you all are pretty heavy in the dairy side, or we're heavy in the dairy side, I would imagine that there's still quite a bit of folks out there that have the chopping and bagging equipment that you can take advantage of some of these alternative crops if they pencil out and seem like they're going to work for you. With that, I bid y'all a great meeting. Hope you all are doing well. Don't be shy. Reach out to us. I hope you're enjoying some of our online programs. And if you've got questions, be sure to reach out to Nick, and Nick can convey those up to us. Have a great meeting. Look forward to seeing you all in person real soon.
Okay, so let me thank our UK speakers, Dr. Hennings and Dr. Arnold and Dr. Lemkuhler, for the timely information they presented tonight. We'll put it to good use, I'm sure. Now at this point, it's important to remind everybody that this is March, and every year in March we have to renew our tags. And if you recall, when you renew your tags, you're asked if you'd like to make a $10 donation for a farm tag. And we have some people here on this next presentation who would like to share with us why we might want to consider that.
Since 2012, Kentucky farmers have had the option of donating $10 whenever they purchase or renew their license plate. These donations are divided equally by the Commissioner of Agriculture, Ryan Quarles, to 4-H, FFA, and Kentucky Proud. These donations help to support all three programs on state and local levels.
As we look to March for 2021 Ag Tag renewals, we ask that you remember to make your voluntary donation to the Ag Tag. If every Adair County renewing the Ag Tag were to make the voluntary $10 donation, $8,000 could be raised for the local 4-H and FFA programs. Think of the impact that could have on your community and its future leaders.
All right, I'd like to thank our 4-H and FFA members for presenting that information as to why we should consider paying the $10 extra on our tags. You see, it goes to good use. Now it's time to introduce our second sponsor for tonight. Day and Day Feeds has a presentation, and on that presentation we'll hear from Micah Thomas, the Purina representative.
Hey everybody, Micah Thomas for Purina Animal Nutrition and Day and Day Feed. It's great to be with you, and before we get into my part of the program, I'd like to take just a minute and introduce myself, tell you a little bit about where I come from and what I do within Purina and what I can do for you on your operation. So as I said, my name's Micah Thomas. My wife and I and our two kids live in Scottsville, where we live on our my wife's family farm. We're raising the fourth generation there now. We have registered Angus cattle and peach trees, so we know about what you go through day to day because we do it too. That being said, I cover from Russellville to Corbin up to Central Kentucky, so I've got most of South Central Kentucky covered in my area. I work with producers just like you and dealers just like Day and Day every day. We're trying to help producers like you make more money on your operation. And how do we do that? It's through the services that I offer in conjunction with the services that the dealers offer too. So you know mostly about what Day and Day does, so quickly what I do is I can help build a nutrition program for your farm specifically based off the forages that you grow or that you bring in. So how can I do that? And it's through forage analysis, and I do that free of charge to you for your operation. And we'll pull those samples, send them off, find out what kind of building blocks that we've got to work with from your forage standpoint, and build the nutrition program around that. Now, when I talk about building blocks, no program is complete or has a good foundation without a good mineral program in place. And we pride ourselves in having one of the best minerals in the market today, and that's our Wind and Rain Storm Formula mineral. So today I really want to talk to you about that product, specifically with our Alticid fly control built into it, and how you can get the most bang for your buck for fly control by using our Wind and Rain Storm Formula products. So I want to start out with just a quick video here. It's kind of a fun cartoon video to show you about our product and how using the Wind and Rain Storm Formula product gets the best fly control for you on your farm.
I've got a beef with hornflies. Every year they buzz on over and bug us. Sometimes more than 4,000 hornflies call my hide home. No wonder hornflies cost the U.S. cattle industry and owners like mine over $1 billion annually. That's no bull. The flies only live a few weeks, and they spend most of their lives biting. Can you imagine being bit 120,000 times a day? We're going off feed, losing weight, and have moved way off our grazing patterns. You'll find us huddling under trees or standing in water. Plus, our milk production goes down, and that means less milk for our babies. Recently, our owner let us try Purina Wind and Rainstorm Fly Control Mineral. We like how easy it works to get rid of the flies and keep us happy. After we eat the mineral, we spread the insect growth regulator through our manure as we graze. Female hornflies will lay eggs in fresh manure. A couple days later, each egg hatches into a larva, which then molts into a pupa. This is where the manure magic happens. The Alticid insect growth regulator blocks each pupa from molting into an adult. Fewer adult hornflies means a lower hornfly population, and that's buzz we can live with. I trust Purina to protect me, and you should moo. Too.
So that was just a quick little cute video just to tell you about how the product works in our Wind and Rainstorm Formula mineral. And we know that it works better than most other minerals with fly control in them on the market today, and here's why. We've got the research and the data points behind it that tells us that we are going to get the recommended dosage of Alticid in those animals through the consumption of our mineral. By the data points, I mean over 60,000 animals in the southeast U.S. and over 6,000 animals personally here in south central Kentucky that I've tested. 4.2 ounces specifically right here in south central Kentucky. So our tag reads that we need to get 4 ounces per head per day of Wind and Rain mineral inside of your animal, and I know that we can do that, and I'll work with you. And there's a lot of things that play into this. A lot of it's feeder placement. In the wintertime, we don't need it up close to shade or water. But in the summertime, we may need to move those feeders a little bit closer then. And working with me on that to help find those things out to where we can dial in that consumption like we need to. Now, it's more than just feeder placement, though. It has a lot to do with mouthfeel. Most minerals out on the market today are in a meal form or like sand, and cattle don't necessarily like that. We tested it on our research farm. We couldn't get consumption where we need it no matter where we put the feeders at. We've also tested pelleted forms, or almost big enough to look like fertilizer prills, and cattle ate way too much of that because of how their tongue could lap it up in their eating habits. So we settled in on the granular form, and I think that whenever you open up a bag of our Wind and Rain mineral and see what it looks like, you'll see for yourself why cattle can consume the right amount. We've also got the right palatants in there at the right level that make cattle want to eat it on a consistent and repeatable basis. So let's talk a little bit more about just the building blocks of your mineral program on your farm, and then we'll finish up with the fly control part.
So I'm Chad Zender. I'm one of our cattle consultants, work in the upper Midwest, basically from Minnesota to eastern Montana, and just going to visit with a little bit about some seasonal nutritional things, management things that we should think about throughout the year. And obviously in the seed stock, the cow-calf, whether you're commercial or seed stock side of things, you know, everything happens and everything happens for a goal, and ultimately that goal is more calves born earlier in the calving season, and then obviously more calves born alive and thus, you know, and weaned with heavier weaning weight. So we spent a little time, or we visited a little bit on just the need and the reason that we support a mineral program year round, and we spend a lot of time talking about the nutritional makeup, what's in that mineral in terms of the ingredients. But certainly the other side of that, or just important, is we got to get that mineral into the cows. And that's where the Wind and Rain Mineral Program certainly can shine and bring, again, added value. It doesn't matter what we put in that bag in terms of nutrition. If we do not get it into the cows, we're not doing any good. So as we look at the weatherization of the Wind and Rain, the ability to withstand some moisture, some humidity, obviously withstand some wind in certain parts of the country, in a wider variety of feeding situations, the Wind and Rain mineral, not only from a weatherization, again, standing up to that moisture, but also from an intake. We've done a lot of work, not only in our own research facility, but on producers' operations like yourselves, collecting data year in and year out across the country in a lot of different operations, a lot of different sizes of operations, and looking at that intake, and whether it's a 2-ounce mineral, a 4-ounce mineral, or using a mineral tub, just focusing on making sure that we're getting consistent intake over a period of time so that we're getting that actual mineral supplementation into those cows, whether that's actual nutritional supplementation or we look at an Ulticid fly control program. Obviously extremely important that we get that consistent intake too. So when evaluating the mineral program, we need to look beyond just what's on the tag, what's in that package, but also is it in a form that we're going to be able to get into the cows in a consistent manner. When you invest in the Wind and Rain Mineral Program, again, you're getting more than just the nutrition. It's the weatherization. The research behind that, the patented weatherization program, it's an industry standard. It's unique to the industry. Nobody else has that. There's maybe others that talk about weatherization, but when you look at what the Wind and Rain Mineral Program actually does in terms of a true weatherized product, a product that doesn't brick up, a product that you don't have to dump out of the mineral feeder when you come back, again, just gives the ability of those cows to maintain that intake and just keep a real palatable product through all kinds of weather situations.
So, as we wrap up, I just want to leave you with a few things to think about. Number one, are you getting the right amount of mineral inside of your cattle on your operation? Check out the tag, do some quick napkin math, and see that you're getting what the tag recommends that you get inside that animal. And while you're looking at that tag, look down at the ingredient list and make sure that those ingredients inside of that mineral that you're feeding to your animals are ingredients that your cattle can actually absorb into their system and utilize as the foundation for the building blocks of their immune system and reproduction and everything else that makes you money through them on your farm. I can tell you that at Purina we use the most available forms of those in our minerals. The last thing that I want to leave you with is the opportunity to be a part of some of those data points that I was talking about that we've collected here locally. Over 6,000 head we've tracked on trial here in South Central Kentucky, and I'd love to add your animals on your farm to that number. All we want to do is feed our Wind and Rain mineral product on your farm for 90 days and let us track consumptions and body condition scores throughout all that. And at the end of that 90 days, for every bag that you feed, you'll get $2 per bag back as a store credit up there at Day and Day Feed. And I'll work with you throughout the entire thing and make sure that we're getting the consumption that we need and show you the benefits of using a Wind and Rain product on your farm. So I'll drop in my contact information right here. I hope everybody has a safe trip home. I hope you've enjoyed the presentations, and I hope you have a very great and profitable 2021. Take care.
I'd like to thank Day and Day Feeds and Purina for their sponsorship and information tonight. It's very much appreciated. Now, earlier I mentioned that we have a cost share program for youth, and we thought it'd be a good idea at this time to show you firsthand the impact this had on one young man in our community.
Hi, my name is Branson Minton. When I found out I could apply for the youth cost share, I was excited. I have worked the past 2 summers helping on the farm and mowing yards to be able to save my money to buy a tail. After talking with my dad, we thought it would be best to buy a calf pair. We decided to look for a good young tail with a calf already by her side, instead of a tail that was bred. A tail that was bred could possibly have trouble calving. I know it was a risk either way. We started looking for the perfect pair. We told a family friend about our plan. He thought to let us know he had just what I was looking for. We went to look at the tail and her calf. With the money I have been able to save from mowing and farm work, the cost share money, and a little help from Mom and Dad, I was able to make the deal. Cost share money, the cost of the pair, was $1,300. I plan to wean the calf and sell it. I want to keep the tail and grow my herd. I appreciate the opportunity this program has given me. I have been able to start my own herd. I hope to add to it in the future. Thank you for the help to buy my first tail and calf. I named them Charlotte and Ghost. Today's the day I get to go meet a tail and calf. I have to lower the trailer onto the ball. This is the first time I've gotten to meet Charlotte and Ghost. Charlotte's the tail and Ghost is his calf. I have to open the gate so my dad can drive through. I have to open the back doors on the trailer so the tail can come out. Let's go to meet the other tails. Thanks for your help with them.
I think you all agree that that program had a tremendous impact on that young fella, and we think he's off to a great start. We're near the end of our agenda now, and we have just 2 reminders, and then we have a slide to put up that we think will make everybody happy. The reminders, though, first, the scholarship. Another way that we're staying involved and engaging youth more is we will offer again a $500 scholarship to our youth. The applications are available from the Extension office, and you can get details from Teresa or Nick. It's a $500 scholarship, and the deadline is April 15th, so please be sure to take advantage of that if you have any youth in your family that you think it might help. The last item that I have is membership dues. We still have some members that are that need to send in their dues. The single membership is $30, the couple is $45, and the corporate members is $200. Anything you can do to get those in and wrap this up for us would be tremendously appreciated. Now at this point, we have one more slide to present, and we think you'll enjoy this one. It's the highlight of each meeting, the door prizes. We've already selected the winners out of the names, and on this slide we'll have your name and what you've won and where or how you go to pick it up. So with that, let me just say, please be sure to thank everybody involved in this meeting if you see them, and we'd ask that you take any trash with you and make it look like we weren't even here tonight, and please drive home safely after you read this slide. It's been nice presenting this to you. Hope to see you soon.